First of all, for the reinsurance business, I mean, you've been in charge for a bit. Is it less boring than you thought it would be? I mean, it feels like between COVID, the war, it's never dull.
No, yeah. Well, I guess the reinsurance industry is quite volatile in terms of by nature. So we are in a sector that is there to absorb risks that are not taken by the primary insurer. So the volatility is part of our business. But in the last few quarters, we had our fair share of volatility. You mentioned COVID. Ukraine is a big issue. Creates more than claims. We actually don't see claims, but we fears of what could happen. And of course, all this is coming at a moment in which the economic outlook is not so rosy.
So what does an oil embargo actually mean for Swiss Re if and when we get it?
Well, that's really is all about the repercussions like food prices into inflation and on the supply chain of any goods. So it means inflation on claims, no matter which sectors you look at, on properties, on motors. All spare parts are more expensive. So in case of claims, we have to pay more. Of course, some of this is embedded in our model. Some of it will be adjusted. The good news is that we are able to constantly adjust claim premiums for that. So,
Sergio, do you have like a worst and best case scenario right now in terms of claims? I know it's very difficult because it feels like the world is divided, it's binary, and also we really don't know what happens.
On Ukraine, I think that we expect the outcome of the Ukraine war to be in the range of 10 to 20 billions for the industry, for the insurance industry, so like a medium-sized nat cat event. But it's still early to say exactly how it will play out in which sectors.
I'm a bit nervous about asking you this because I remember 2.5 years ago, I think I asked the ECB about COVID, and this was the first time I asked about it. But do you worry about monkeypox? Is this the next pandemic?
We have to, by default, in our business, in every business nowadays, you have to be somehow paranoid and about any risks, and of course take measures to mitigate. You can't eliminate it, but we should not make the mistake of downplaying anything. I mean, COVID is now we are a good seasonality, but who knows what's going to happen at the end of the summer. So we have to stay vigilant. We see mortality coming down. This is good news, but excess mortality coming down. But
has COVID changed the way you perceive risks? I mean, we hadn't had a pandemic or a health scare for a pretty long time.
Yes, I think not only what we perceive is people. I mean, you see more people taking on life insurance protections. You see people seeking, for example, taking on more cyber risk protections as a consequence of what's going on in Ukraine. And, of course, the war is not just a conventional war, but it's also a lot going on in the cyberspace. And so risk perceptions by both insurers but also by policyholders is increasing, which is very good. Only 25% of all risks out there in the world are insured. So 75% of the risks worldwide are not insured. So you see,
it's crazy when you think about it.
It's a lot, particularly when you look at nat cat events in emerging markets. The coverage of, in general, but also in Asia, is low single digits.
If you look at blockchain, can it help actually in terms of following, I guess, concerns and measuring some of the risks out there?
Yeah, more about some traceability, but more about the efficiency of the process of documentations than it is about risk taking. Data, of course, data is gaining a lot of momentum in the way we look at risks. Of course, we need to adjust the models because forward-looking, assumptions on climate and any risk has changed in the last few years.
I need to go back. I mean, 75% of risks worldwide are not insured. That's a scary number. Do you think a lot of those will be insured, or is it a lack of money? I mean, to be insured, you have to pay.
You have to pay. Some of the risks, by the way, are probably not insurable, or better described, are insurable at a price that is not economically attractive. So in many areas, this is an insurance gap is a big issue. I mean, if you look at how to preserve, avoid inequality in the world, the necessity of giving more access to insurance to a lot of people is essential. And there, private and public partnerships are very important. In the NatCat area is crucial.
I mean, I also heard that there are like ships basically in Odessa and places like that aren't leaving because the insurance asks for such a premium that it's like almost millions and millions a day, right, to get them out.
Yeah, well, that's one aspect. So there we will need to see exactly what kind of damages come out of this. And the other one is, as you know, is the big issue of airplanes, aircrafts in Russia. 500 airplanes have been nationalized and the factory.
Sergio, very quickly on sustainability, do you feel like the insurance industry is doing enough to manage these dirty assets?
Yeah, we do. I mean, in general, I would say yes. I think that's, of course, like in any ranking. I can only talk about ourselves, and we do a lot in terms of our own consumptions. We have clear targets. We do a lot in terms of managing our assets with clear ambitions to be zero carbon neutral by 2030. So, and we are doing more and more on the liability side. For example, on oil and gas, we are really already phasing in a program in which we will not give coverage to polluting energy producers.